welcome back to the Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show, where we talk about the Phoenix Lights, South Mountain history, the history of Phoenix, Arizona, how to understand petroglyphs, talk about your UFO sightings, all that jazz. Hello, welcome back to the Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. I'm your host, Jeff Woolwine. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about a little bit of this lost treasure, right? Lost treasure that isn't talked about anymore. They don't tell you about these things anymore. But I will, because I have dug up the history on South Mountain so much that it's just fascinating. I love it. I love archaeology. I love history. I love UFOs, right? It's what I do. It's what I've been doing. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been seeing these UFOs ever since I was a kid. Playing catch football with my dad, 5th grade. There's an orb in the sky, right? Seeing these lights in the sky, right? I'm a native, man. I live here in Phoenix. Born and raised, Phoenix, Arizona. My adoptive mother, who passed away of a brain tumor when I was 13, she loved the Native Americans. And I think that's what, really got me into all of this stuff, is because, so she was from Oklahoma, and they moved. When she married my adoptive dad, they moved to Arizona, and she specifically wanted to come to Arizona because of the Native American history, because of, the landscape and the mountains and all the rich soil that we had here, all the dried up soil. And she took me on so many adventures, all the Indian museums and stuff. So, it was great. So I've been growing up, not only with UFOs, but also, with the Native Americans. So doing this, research on Phoenix Lights and discovering, not only that the petroglyphs around Phoenix, Arizona, on the mountains around Phoenix, is talking about the Phoenix Lights, and talking about these UFOs that we see, but also, learning the history on completely by accident. I was just led to believe that the Holcomb Indians was a peace-loving race of people, who lived here for a thousand years. And then, the archaeologists tell us, well, it got too hot, so they decided to go somewhere else, and that was the end of it. We have the canals that they did, and we have the, adobe structures now that the parts of it that's, been preserved, that has been saved. Unfortunately, like 95% of what was here on the land, is gone, from, construction. And Phoenix rising up from the ashes of the formal civilization, right? That's what Phoenix is all about, right? But they don't tell you about what this formal civilization really was, And digging into the Phoenix Lights, trying to figure out what the hell these lights were, and hiking the mountains, understanding the Native Americans, understanding the petroglyphs, right? Calling down a Native American shaman from one of the museums here in Phoenix, Arizona, and having him explain to me what the petroglyphs are talking about on South Mountain. It all makes sense. It all totally made sense. And I think, to this day, I'm probably the only one who has done more research on the Phoenix Lights than anybody else has. And I go with proven facts. I just don't go with hearsay. Hearsay can take a holiday. I have been doing this for like 15, almost 20 years now. I've been studying these UFOs for 20 years. I've been doing the research for well over 15 to 17 years. Hiking the mountains on South Mountain, and also the mountains around, Phoenix, understanding the petroglyphs, sky watching all over the place, trying to figure out when and where these, Phoenix lights and these UFOs are going to show up at. In 2004, the Phoenix lights actually showed me where to go. They pointed me to South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, we're going to talk about the history of Phoenix, and we're going to talk about one of the things that has been covered up that I dug up in the Phoenix Library by accident. All the history has been buried in a folder for the last 80 years, right? Until I go trying to understand what the Phoenix Lights is, so I go to the library to see if I can get any information, on this past civilization, and the petroglyphs, and in this folder, I found this huge document and evidence and paperwork from the first park ranger, Charles Holbert, and from the 1930s to the late 40s. And he's talking about the Native Americans. He's talking about the Hohokam Indians. He's talking about how the Mayans were here. He's talking about how he was protecting the tombs on South Mountain. He's talking about how South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona was formerly known as Mount Sapoa, Mountain of Mercy. He talked about the sacrifice that was going on this mountain, basically for these things that we see in the skies today. The Phoenix lights, the feathered serpents, the flying diamonds, the flying orbs, all this crazy stuff. I'm not talking about crafts, not spaceships, but living entities, living creatures. And where did he learn all this stuff from? From the first Native Americans who he got in contact with when he became park ranger of South Mountain in the early 1930s. They told him the whole history of Phoenix. He wrote it down in his journals. And then after he died, his son wrote a book about his father, what his father did in Phoenix, Arizona, and how he was protecting the gold tombs. One of the things that I found really fascinating was a story about this little old lady that used to pay her grocery bills and rent money and stuff like that in little gold nuggets, right? That she was taken down from South Mountain. We're going to get into that. That's what we're going to really talk about tonight, is how this little old lady discovered this cave, Padre Cave. We're going to talk about Padre Cave and the history of the Padre that rolled around in Phoenix. And the gold, right, that's buried in the cave in South Mountain. I'm going to show you. I got photographs of this cave. I found it. It's great. I found this cave. Found the history of Phoenix. Found the information. We're going to talk about that today. But before we get started, let's talk about these two guys. Dun, da, da, dun, da, 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 da. Okay. For Real Watchers Radio Show. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for sharing my videos on your YouTube channel and being a part of Petroglyphs in the Sky. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing my videos on your YouTube channel. Check out these guys. They're great people. Jerry and Brett, these guys rock. Check it out. For Real Watchers Radio Show. Worldwide Live. These guys rock. Thank you guys so much for being a part of Petroglyphs in the Sky and presenting my show on your channel. You guys are awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the Vulture City Paracon Part 2 out there in Wickenburg, Arizona. Oh my, we're back at it. This is gonna be a great Paracon. So I was out there, the first Paracon out there in Vulture City, and it was great. Jay and Marie Yates hosted this great ghost hunt out there. Totally spectacular, great evidence of ghosts out there. I want you guys to come on down, check out the Vulture City Paracon Part 2. This October 2021, we are back. 2020 kind of interrupted things with the COVID situation, so we had to cancel that. But we are back. We are back and coming at you live at the Vulture City Paracon, October 8th, 9th, and 10th. Now, I am also the first ever UFO sky watching out there at the Paracon. So, Vulture City in Wickenburg, they have seen a lot of lights out there, a lot of Phoenix lights, a lot of UFO activities out there. And so we're going to be doing a sky watch, a sky hunt out there. And so make sure that you get your tickets early because, of COVID and everything like that. You want to make sure that you get your tickets early so you can reserve your spot at the Paracon this October. Come on out. Say hi to me. Let's do a sky watch. Let's do a ghost hunt together. Bring your books. I'll be autographing your books out there. Your books. I'll be doing a book signing out there. Let's talk about UFOs. Let's do a meet and greet. Come on down. I'd love to meet you guys. I'd love to see you. Let's talk about UFOs. And let's do a ghost hunt with Jay and Marie Yates. Those guys are awesome. They were recently on the Ghost Hunters show with Zach, talking about the Vulture City mines out there. And I tell you what, Jay has sent me some pretty much crazy things. He sent me this video and some photographs of what's going on out there. I can't reveal it just yet, but yeah, some crazy stuff is going out there at the Paracon. So make sure that you go get your tickets for the Vulture City Paracon Part 2. Okay, so those of you who are watching this on the live stream, I know that looks like we're breaking up and things like that, but I am recording this so you can see it. Any parts that you have missed, you can go back and see it on my YouTube page because I'm recording this and it won't have any interruptions. So I know the video is probably lagging about now. So just go back and subscribe to my YouTube channel. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Not Petroglyphs in the Sky. That's not me. That's an imposter. There's a lot of people out there trying to act like me, trying to, steal my stuff, right? There's so many people out there stealing my research and pretending that they're me just to get hits, just to get money off of my, information. So make sure when you subscribe to my channel, it's the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Petroglyphs in the Sky is all one word. So not just Petroglyphs in the Sky. You see that channel? Don't subscribe to that channel. That is a hacked channel, and that channel is not me. So what is me is the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. That is my YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe to that. Okay, so this is my book. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. And it talks about the history of Phoenix, Arizona. It shows colored photographs of the petroglyphs and how to understand them, how to understand the meaning on which what happened to the Hohokam Indians, And it's just 15 years of research, man. Studying the petroglyphs, hiking the mountains around Phoenix, many, many years, digging up the information about South Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona in the Phoenix Library. And so, yeah, it took a very long time to put this book together. Because, I crossed my T's and I dotted my I's, and this is not fiction here. This is not the work of fiction. So this story takes you on a magical type journey through time and present on what happened to the Holcomb Indians back then in the day over 1,000 years ago, to how to understand the petroglyphs and what these Phoenix lights really is from the Native American point of view, from what history says that these UFOs in the skies are, not just here in Phoenix, right, but around the world. Okay, it's not just here in Phoenix. These lights are all over the world. And I believe it's the same stories. It might be told a little different ways, but when you understand the stories, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. And it talks about this in the book. It's a story about the lost history of Phoenix. And it tells you what the Phoenix Lights is. And so, yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. Make sure that you bring it. Bring it to the Paracon out there in Vulture City. And I'll autograph it for you, yeah. So make sure you subscribe to the Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky YouTube channel. Like I said before, the Petroglyphs in the Sky, that is not me. Okay, that's someone pretending to be me. There's a lot of people out there that's stealing my work and stealing my information and trying to act like they're me just to get the hits, just to get paid. So you don't want to go for that. You want to stay away from the YouTube channel with only Petroglyphs in the Sky. What you are looking for is the Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky YouTube channel. That is me. Okay, so let's get on with this. We're going to talk about this little old lady that was pulling gold down from South Mountain. And what it all means. So after the Holcomb disappeared, so the Holcomb was the first Native Americans who, first lived here in Phoenix, and they were responsible for most of the petroglyphs that are carved out there, at least 1,000 years ago, and they lived in this valley for 1,000 years, up until these lights, these Phoenix lights, and these things that we see in the skies came down and took the Holcombs away. Now, if you want to find out more about that, read my book. Check out my book. It talks about that. Watch my past shows. I talked about that in some of my past shows. And then after everybody was taken away by these lights, nobody lived in this valley for like 400 years. Nobody lived in Phoenix for 400 years. They actually cursed this valley. They said whoever was going to live in Phoenix, Arizona, we know Phoenix, Arizona today, but whoever was going to live in this valley, then eventually they would have to go back to war, right? Back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. So they knew if they're going to continue to live here, then they're going to deal with these lights, these Phoenix lights, and eventually it's going to happen all over again, and they were afraid. So they got the hell out of Dodge, right? They left, and they cursed this ground. It's all documented. And I found all this information in the Phoenix Library in a folder that's been buried for 80 years, along with Charles Holbert. Charles Holbert writes all this stuff, man. And he says after everybody was taken away, they buried the gold in the mountains, all right? And because they know eventually, the story goes on to say eventually the Mayans were with the Holcomb Indians in Phoenix, of course, okay? Because, back then, I mean, even up until, Arizona was part of Mexico, so sure. And some would even say that maybe the Mayans were the Holcombs, right? Which is possible. The today's tribe, the To'odom tribe, and the Pima Indian tribe, consider themselves ancestors to the Holcombs. And Holcomb is an Indian name for the people who are gone, the people who got taken away. So they buried the gold there. And they're saying that, because they're waiting for the mines to return and claim the gold and have everything start over again, right? Start over again. That's why everything is left on the tombs on South Mountain. It's probably the reason why the government made South Mountain a government park. And that's so weird. Why that mountain? They made it a government park. So if you go up there and you start digging up these tombs, you're going to get busted for it. So after Holbert died in the early 1940s, all his information about the tombs, about the 4 crosses that he discovered that we're going to talk about, all this crazy stuff that he was there to protect, because still gold robbers, gold seekers were still going up on South Mountain looking for the tombs. And he was in charge of keeping these people away from these gold tombs, from digging it up. His son writes a book about Charles, about his dad. And he talks about his dad on how so many times he has chased gold seekers off of South Mountain digging up the gold. They destroyed the four crosses, and we're going to talk about that too here in a few. And so when the Holcombs left, they left all their gold there in the tombs. And then for like 400 years, nobody lived here. Okay. And they were like tribes on the outskirts of the valley. And they were seeing the lights, and they were afraid. They saw the flying serpents, the Quetzalcoatl, and the orbs, and they were scared to even come back into this valley. And so after that, some Native Americans decided to come back, and Jack Swelling came over the ridge with his people to rebuild Phoenix, Arizona. And about 100 years after that time period, give or take, before Jack Swelling, before everything, there was the story goes on to say that there was 2 padres. All right, one padre was cool, and he used to bring blankets, and he used to bring things for the Indians, and and the Indians they trusted this padre, and everything was cool, and they really enjoyed his teachings. And as a matter of fact, to this day, when you go around and you look at some of the petroglyphs around Phoenix, especially like on South Mountain, you can see a cross that's been carved. There's a recently new cross that's been carved up there on some of these petroglyphs, right? And while seeing all these crosses that were clearly added after the fact, after the Holcombs carved their stories, the padre kind of understood, what these symbols and what these things were talking about on the mountains here, because so many times I talk about on how, these photographs, these petroglyphs are prehistoric photographs of what the Native Americans saw in their time. Because they didn't have cameras, they didn't have video cameras and stuff, to record something significant that had happened in that area. So they carved these stories on the places where the petroglyphs are located at. And when you look at that story, when you understand the stories, because it talks about the giants, right? And we see the sacrificing tables, the sacrificing altars on South Mountain. We come to find out that, and the story of the Holcombs is when the Holcombs first got here, they didn't know how to live. So these creatures came up out of the sand world and came down from the sky. So my point in all that, when we look at that, and we look at the giant carvings, and we see the evidence of the giants out there on South Mountain, from the structures and the great walls that they built that's been demolished now. When you see all the evidence of that, and then you go back and you look at these scrolls, right? These scrolls anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 years old. When it talks about these beings that come down from the heavens, and they teach these people the secret knowledge of the universe, the secret ways of the earth. And he teaches people stuff that they were not meant to know. And from them, begot giants, born giants and this and that. And yeah, talking about the Nephilim. So when you read all these stories, we read the stories, and then we go out there on the mountains, and we see these photographs, we see these petroglyphs, and it's talking about giants, it's talking about creatures in the sky, it's talking about these entities, not crafts from another world, but living, shape-shifting beings, man. Creatures, right? It kind of adds up. It's like, dude, we can read about it, and then you can go see the photographs of it. And that's where kind of the credibility lies at. That's where the credibility kind of comes into play here. Okay, we have something written anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 years ago. Not just the biblical scrolls, but the Sumerian scrolls when it talks about the Anunnaki. And then we go out there on the rocks and we see the photographs. And then the cherry on top is now in our generation, we are seeing these things in the sky, right? So we see a stick figure man and carved on a rock. It's been carved over 1,000 years ago. And then we see right above his head a circle or an orb. And then we come out in Phoenix, or we come out to where you are seeing UFOs, and we see the exact same orb in the sky, right? There's a pattern there. There's a big pattern there. There's a big credibility pattern there, right? It's not hearsay of a craft going over Phoenix, March 13th, 1997, can't be proven. Yeah, I always got to put that in there. But the petroglyphs talking about, showing the photographs, reading the scrolls, and seeing it with our own eyes. That's credibility, guys. And so yeah, that's where the credibility is at. Is when these petroglyphs are talking about, especially the ones when it talks about the spirals, right? Because the spirals are the doorways for these entities. And we're not going to get into that tonight. We will get into that a little bit later. Those of you who've been following me understand what the spirals are. And so right now we're talking about the Padre, okay? So my point is, I kind of got off track. The Padre sees all this stuff, and then he reads his Bible, and he's like, wait a minute, right? He's putting things, two and two connections together, right, also. So when I look at these rocks, when I study the rocks, and I get a feeling, about the history there. I'm really in tuned. I'm really in touch base with the history, with the rocks, with the petroglyphs. I'm so in tuned on everything. I understand what this Padre was doing. He was going around to certain areas of these petroglyphs on the mountains and blessing these rocks. Okay. Part of the interpretations on these rocks out here, on the petroglyphs, is these petroglyphs, some of them, has the power to invoke the spirits. And I've done that a few times by accident, just to see, right? The archaeologist in Phoenix, Arizona, talks about this in his book. That's one of the things that he's gotten right. The rest of it is just like, oh my God, dude. He's totally, making you believe something that is not credible, that can't be proven. He's part of the problem here. He's part of the cover-up here, this archaeologist in Phoenix. I read his books. I've been on the news with the guy, in Phoenix. So, but one of the things that he did get right was these petroglyphs has the power to invoke the spirits. Okay. And so I tested that one time. I went out on a canyon, this huge canyon down the side of South Mountain. All these spirals are down this canyon, okay? Took a break there, kicking back, taking a break from my expedition. And I said, hey, you guys are cool. I haven't seen you in a while. Why don't you come and see me, right? talking to these petroglyphs in this canyon with these spirals representing a doorway. So we have this canyon going down the side of South Mountain, and we have all these spirals carved in that canyon. And it's telling me in the interpretations is saying that this is the doorway. That whole canyon, that whole crack down the side of that mountain is a major doorway for these spirits, for these UFOs, for the Phoenix lights, for the flying diamonds, for the orbs to come and go from. Now, this canyon actually is a doorway for a flying serpent, because at the top of that canyon, way high up on the mountain, there is a petroglyph with two guys looking up at a flying snake. Okay? And it's a flying snake, and then down the canyon is all the spirals that is carved in the whole canyon. And it's talking about this is the doorway where the feathered serpent comes out of, Quetzalcoatl. So I'm talking to the petroglyphs there. Hey, you guys are cool. Come and see me. And like 3 days later, okay, I'm living by South Mountain. I'm doing my research. 2005. And I moved specifically by the east side of South Mountain to watch, right? Because the lights in 2004 led me to South Mountain. I followed the Phoenix lights. The Phoenix lights moved. They knew I was watching them. They moved in the sky to the mountain. I followed them to the mountain. And in 2005, I moved to the mountain to try and get, a better understanding, to hike the mountain, to understand the petroglyphs, to learn about the petroglyphs, and to see if I can get any, UFO sightings during the day, in which I did. It was crazy. And right. So I lost my train of thought. Okay, let's get back to it. My bad. I get so wrapped up in this, So and I moved to the mountain to see these things in the day, and to go out there and to understand them, and to understand the petroglyphs. So back to the we'll go back to the gold here. Okay. The Padre. My bad. Okay. So yeah, the Padre, the first Padre that came around was cool. He blessed the rocks. All right. So he knew. My whole point of that. Now I'm back on track. The whole point in this is because he knew that these symbols were representing these fallen angels. Okay. And so he went around and he blessed these rocks on certain areas of South Mountain with a cross on it. He carved his own cross on these certain areas around South Mountain. So what I learned over the years, like for instance, so that whole canyon there, all right, so it's different. When you look at South Mountain, the landscape kind of changes. It's weird, and the landscape kind of changes when you look at it. So especially like the doorways, because the spirals are the doorways for these spirits to go into the underworld. All right, they're literally coming and going from South Mountain. They're going into the mountain under the ground there, and absorbing the energy from the fault lines. That's basically what's going on here. You can learn more of that on my past shows. And so what I learned over the years watching them is we have like the spiral serpent doorway here, that big crack. And then like a few blocks down the road from the mountain, we have the serpent here, and then all of a sudden the serpent petroglyphs turns into diamond petroglyphs with spirals. And then a few blocks or a mile down the way, we see orbs, right? So my point in all this is we have a doorway for the serpents, a doorway for the orbs, a doorway for the diamonds, a doorway for the crooked snakes. So we have so many doorways on this mountain, on South Mountain, for different types of entities, right? I think it's like the same entities, but we have the serpents, we have the orbs, we have the diamonds, and it's just so weird on that when what I discovered, for these doorways around the mountains. So the first Padre, he went and blessed all this stuff, man. He put crosses on these rocks, on the petroglyphs. And that was all fine and dandy. Okay, until the second Padre came around. Now this Padre, I think his name was Padre Kino, if I'm not mistaken. He was ripping off the Indians. Okay? He was ripping off the Indians. He would give them like these fake blankets or stuff like that, and he would take their gold. All right? He would take all their possessions, mostly the gold, and then they would take it away, and he would bury it up on a cave on South Mountain. And this went on for a while, and everybody, you can read about this in my book too. I talk about this in my book. And until the Apaches got a hold of him and his men, because he just didn't come alone. He brought some men with him. And the story says that the Apaches dismembered this Padre. They killed him and dismembered him on Padre Hill, where this cave is supposed to be at, right? And to this day, the gold is still up there, right? And so that's the story. That is the story on this Padre. That's why they call it Padre's Cave. And it goes on to say that, when you're in that area, in that hill area, that this Padre, the ghost, because the ghost is still there, this Padre, and he will leave footprints in the sand behind you as you walk. And the story goes on to say, I'm going to show you a cartoon little character also. It shows you, and they say that eventually this Padre will reveal the secret location of the gold on Padre's Hill, on Padre's Cave, on where the gold is located at. So when Charles Holbert was here, was the park ranger, when he was there, he actually found the Padre Cave. He found the cave, and he wrote it on these papers, okay. And he did it in such a way, he did it in such a way. He's like, okay, east of the two peaks, and west of Natural Bridge, in the galley or whatever, facing north, there's petroglyphs, So he kind of made it a code, right? It took me 2 weeks, right? I found this information, and it took me 2 weeks, and I did exactly what he was saying. I found the two peaks, and I found the Natural Bridge. I found this little, what he's telling us where to find, and so I did all this, and I found it. I found Padre's Cave. I found the ghost cave. And I was amazed, because right there in that area, it is, fresh dirt in that little cave. I'm going to show you photographs of it and stuff. But going back and thinking about all of it, I really don't think, because the story was so, massive. Everybody knew about the story. When I go back and think about it, I really don't think that the gold is buried in that cave, but there's so much other stuff around that cave, all right, that the gold could be buried in. There's so many other boulders and little like close mountain ranges or whatever that the gold could be buried at. And I think it's just a reference point. Once you find that cave, the gold is going to be, somewhere close by. But I could be wrong. I haven't dug up there. Yes, the sand is very fresh. All right. And yes, I could dig and get to the bottom of it. Right. And yes, there could be gold there. But I didn't. But I found the cave. Right. And so after Charles Holbert passes away, this story of the old lady of the lady actually goes back before Charles Holbert. Okay, let's take a look about let's show you what I'm talking about here. Let's examine this here. Okay, so this is a newspaper clipping that was in that folder that I was telling you about in the downtown Phoenix library that has been buried for 80 years, right? And it talks about this guy and the gold. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. All right, Chopper rescues Gold Seeker 89. This is August 19th of 1966. This is when this happened. All right, so an 80-year-old man who was searching for the gold his father promised him in 1886. So this was way before Charles Holbert, because Charles Holbert didn't arrive in South Mountain until the late 1930s. So this is before Charles Holbert got here. His father promised him in 1886, was rescued by a helicopter from high slope on South Mountain yesterday after he collapsed from heat exhaustion and hit his head on a rock. David Garlino, a native of Phoenix who recently moved to Los Angeles, was lifted onto a Luke Air Force Base helicopter and flown to an ambulance at the base of the mountain east of 28th Street and taken to Good Samaritan Hospital where he was treated and released. At the hospital room yesterday, Garlino's daughter, Miss Margaret, explained on what his father was doing and what led him to scale the steep South Mountain cliffs that exhausted the police and ambulance workers and made the rescue of him on foot impossible. 80 years ago, Miss Alberto related said young Dave stood beside his father, Raphael, at the entrance of Padre Cave high up on South Mountain. Raphael handed personal affairs of Maria, I can't pronounce this, Padritas, a wealthy woman who lived on a ranch near the mountain. She said, Miss Padrita, can't pronounce it, who never married, was well known in Phoenix because whenever she marketed, she made her payments with little small gold nuggets. Now, Padritas, I can't pronounce it because it's Spanish. It means little stones in Spanish. The old woman kept her gold hidden in Padre Cave and had promised Raphael that when she died, he would inherit the gold nuggets. Raphael now told his son that he would be rich when his father passed away. Now, with arthritis in both legs, Gadaribo, can't pronounce his name, is still struggling up on the mountainside, scanning the memory for the cave's location. Yesterday, Galerido's knees blocked after he was spent nearly 8 hours roaming the hills in temperatures in the 90s. Miss Alberto said that she has never completely understood her father's dedication, but she predicted that he would return up on the mountain looking for the gold. So yeah. So I believe that the story goes a little bit more into detail. I think I read it either in Charles Holbert's son's writing in his book, and so yeah, it was like, so this lady was pulling gold nuggets off South Mountain in the 1800s, right? Paying her groceries, paying her rent, right? She never told anybody where the gold was, right? But she told, this guy, because she couldn't get up there anymore, where to go get the gold, right? So he would go up there on the mountain and pull down the gold nuggets. And the story goes even deeper. The writings say that these gold nuggets was wrapped in leather pouches. Was all wrapped up in leather pouches and tied up in leather pouches and buried in Padre's cave. So he would go up there and take down the gold and give it to her, and then she would pay her rent, go grocery shopping, whatever. And then she passed away. He didn't want the gold, but as the story says, he told his son, look, you're going to be a rich boy someday. You're going to be a rich man. After I die, here's where the cave is. But you can't have it because I don't want it. I'm going to California. So they went to Los Angeles. And that's where he lived, for like 80 years or whatever. Until he started remembering, what his dad said about the cave on South Mountain, in Phoenix. So he moved back down here to Phoenix specifically to go up on the mountain to look for that cave, to look for the gold. And that's about as far as the story goes up until this newspaper clipping in 1966 with the helicopter pilots, with the rescue, the air rescue from South Mountain. So the guy knew. The guy found it. His dad knew where the gold was. He's up there in what, 80, 90 degree heat, looking for the gold. His knees locked up. He fell, hit his head. And he's still going out there. His daughter was like, dude, he's still going. I don't understand why he keeps going up there. But he's on a mission. Okay, so here's the cartoon clipping. All right? And it talks about the four crosses. So a little bit about these four crosses. So there's always, when Holbert was here in the early 1930s, there has always been rumors that the Spanish conquistadors, when they visited the Valley of the Sun, when they visited Phoenix, the Spanish conquistadors basically was looking for the lost cities of Cibola, the lost cities of gold, right? And they thought that Phoenix, Arizona was one of the cities full of gold. And I started with all the information I've dug up and all the proof that I found. Yeah, I think they were onto something. They probably did find something, but history does not even place the Spanish conquistadors here in Phoenix, Arizona. They said, according to the history books and according to, the misleading archaeologist, he wants you to believe that the Spanish never set foot in Phoenix, Arizona. But when you look at my book, when you buy my book, and you look at the evidence that I discovered, you'll find out, yes, the Spanish conquistadors was here. And because there's so much evidence that they were, right? And because one of there's a Spanish conquistador, he carved his name up there on one of the rocks up there on South Mountain, on the east side of South Mountain. Shows a date, things like that, But the archaeologists in the city of Phoenix and the historians, they don't believe in that rock. They don't believe that the Spanish came this far, right? And but Charles Holbert did, and when the city of Phoenix was going to remove that rock, the carving of I can't remember his name, Franco's Denazzi, I believe his name was. I can't think of his name right now. And it had a date there, 1482 or something, 1492, something like that. They wanted to remove that rock, and Charles Holbert, he said, no, you're not moving the stone. Eventually, long story short, Charles Holbert was responsible for keeping that rock there and putting bars around that rock. And to this day, the carving from the first Spanish conquistadors is still there in Phoenix, Arizona. And also, the story goes on to say about these conquistadors that they erected 4 crosses, right? They made 4 crosses, east, north, east, south, and west, right? So for generations, people have been looking for these 4 crosses on South Mountain. Charles Holbert came around early 1930s, 1940s, 1930s, and knew about the rumors, knew that the Spanish was here, and then in his journals he writes that one day, high up on a slope, he looked down, and on the sun-blackened rocks sat these huge 4 crosses, right? And he writes that he says that these 4 crosses must have taken a mighty army to construct, because these boulders were so huge in mass, you know, and it was been covered up by, you know, by the landscape, you know, the grass and things like this, you know, but high up, when you're up on a hill, looking down, you can see the crosses. So he kept that a secret for about a year. He didn't tell anybody where these crosses were until eventually the city of Phoenix made a new map of South Mountain. And on that map, they put the hill of where the 4 crosses was by accident. Now, unfortunately, you know, Charles told the city of Phoenix what was on that hill. He says, you know what? 4 crosses is on that hill. And once he did that, it made the newspapers, and everybody, you know, then knew where these crosses were located on the hill. Well, that was the big mistake of all time that unfortunately Mr. Holbert did, because the gold, they ruined the history, they ruined the crosses. Charles Holbert was so pissed about it, right? He wanted the city of Phoenix to go up there and rebuild the crosses. And the city of Phoenix didn't want to do it on their dime. But they said, you know, if you and your friends want to go up there and rebuild the crosses, go for it. You guys. Can. So his journals, I believe his son wrote about this, and he says that it was like ants going up the side of the hill, you know, carrying concrete and stones and rebuilding the crosses up there on the hill, and he writes on how the women were handing out lemonade and lunches down below the hill, and everybody was, you know, making the crosses back there up on that hill, you know. And unfortunately, the writings say that Charles Holbert, one of his good friends, passed away of a heart attack rebuilding the crosses. And that's about as far as it goes. The story kind of ends after that, right? They said that they rebuilt it, but that was it. The story kind of ends. And so after that, the city of Phoenix then comes out with a second map saying the crosses is in a completely different area. Okay? Now, I found both maps in the library, in the folders. I found both maps. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to show you one in this show today. And I've been looking for these crosses forever. Okay? And I came to the conclusion that the city of Phoenix, after, you know, way after Charles passed away, way after 1940s, the city of Phoenix went in there and blew up the crosses. They destroyed the crosses because they gave two maps, right? One map shows the crosses kind of in the middle of South Mountain. So I went out there, and there's no way that there would be crosses in that area. There's too much cactus. It's too rocky. You know, that is just a complete misleading of where these crosses were. But the other map shows the crosses on the east side of South Mountain, and it just goes inside. It just so happens that on that area is where the Franciscan stone is where the Spanish conquistadors' carvings is located on the east side. And so it shows the crosses directly across the way from that. And now when I go out there, I'm getting ahead of myself. But now when I go out there, you know, that area is completely gone. And I'm going to show you that today. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about today. So here's a comic that everybody knew of. I think this was made in the 1930s. Okay. And it's talking about the Padre Hill, the Padre Cave, and the crosses. It says, nearby is Four Cross Hill, where an unidentified Spanish Padre and his Pima friends were killed by the Apaches. Remember the story? Because the Padre was stealing the gold from the Indians, so the Apaches dismembered him. They killed him, and they put his remains on that hill. They buried him and his people on that hill, Padre Hill. And when I went out there and found the hill, yeah, I found mounds. There, it's a burial ground. Yeah, where Padre Hill is, that cave. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you photographs of it. When I was out there, yes, I was seeing mounds of graves. So yes, this, in my opinion, because I was there, I've seen it, I witnessed it. Yeah, this story is true. The Padre is buried there, along with his men. The four crosses, marked by stones laid out on the ground, show where they were buried. Indians will tell you that the unknown Padre returns to that hill and leaves fresh footprints in the sand behind you. Someday, they say, he will reveal the hiding place of where his vast golden treasures lie when the right man visits Four Cross Hill. See the ghost there, and the guy's going, "Oh, thanks." Look at the cartoon under the Padre. The unknown Padre lived in a cave on the mountains of South Mountain. So yeah, that's the story. And you know, there has been times, yes, South Mountain is haunted. And there has been times when I've been out there and I hear stuff, I feel something, right? And I hear somebody walking behind me. And I can't remember if I've ever seen the footsteps behind me, but I talk about that more in my book. And I can't remember if, you know, I've ever seen the footsteps in the sand. But Charles Holbert found it. He left clues in his journals and his piece of paper that I dug up where to find the cave. A lot of people think that the cave is located somewhere else because there's a lot of paintings. There's like a cross painting there, and it looks like a hippie cave, you know, because there's a lot of hippie art there, you know, and a lot of people think that that's Padre Cave, and it's way like west of what Charles Holbert says where the cave is. And so a lot of people, you know, you might dig it up, might look for it, and they're telling you that that's Padre Cave with all these, you know, like painting graffitis. But that's not it. That's not where Charles Holbert writes on where it's at. So I followed his writings, you know, east of the two peaks, you know, west of the natural bridge, and in this canyon over here, you know, and the petroglyphs are located here. And so, yeah, you know, I followed that, you know, for 2 weeks. And I found this cave, right? I found the cave and what he is talking about. And it even looks like the entrance, you know, to see the Padre, he's standing in that cave there, the hole. And look at that. Look at the boulder there. See the boulder to the left at the entrance of the cave? See that? So I'm going to stress heavy on that. That boulder right there is what kind of gave it away. Is what kind of like led me to believe that this is Padre Cave, because the artist is drawing exactly what he's looking at. He's seeing the clay cave. He knows what the cave looked like. He's there drawing this cave. And he puts that boulder right there on the ground, left of us, right to the Padre holding the staff on the ground there. You see that boulder? And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here in a few minutes. Let's just tuck this away right here. What's this? Okay. All right, so this is Padre Cave. This is the haunted cave. This right here is Padre's cave. Let me blow it up a little bit. Now you can see the eyes. You can see the eyes peering out of the cave. So these are rocks, and these are man-made. This is not a natural cave. This cave, all these boulders were brought here and piled up. And you can see the ghost eyes of the cave. You see that from a distance. I took a photograph of this about maybe a block away, maybe a block and a half away. And I looked at the cave and I saw these eyes looking back at me. And I knew exactly what this was all about. This is the ghost. This is the ghost eyes. And I'm sure that the Indians saw that too. The Indians saw this also. They had to have. There's just no way that they couldn't have. And here's another photograph, close up of Padre Cave, and you can see the eyes. You can see the eyes inside the cave. You can see the petroglyphs there. This is Padre's cave. So it's now, it's very hard to get up in there. But over the centuries, we have what we call major dust storms here in Phoenix, and they're called haboobs. And so all this dirt on the ground, it's filling up this cave. That's why it looks so small, right? But back to this cartoon, and you see the boulder right there on the left? You see that boulder there? Now look at the boulder here on the cartoon. Look at the cartoon of the boulder of the entrance. Now look at right under the white arrow is where that boulder sits on the left. See that? See that boulder there? That's another clue on how this is the exact location of where Padre Cave is. This is where the gold, either the gold is buried here or it's buried around this area. This is high up on South Mountain. I found it. And around that area, yes, are mounds. There are people buried around this rock formation, around this cave. And you can see the eyes. Look at the eyes there. So yeah, the Native Americans knew about this spot, and they stayed away from it because this is where the ghost was. The ghost of the Padre and his men. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that neat? You can see the eyes. Not only up close when you're, because I'm like right in front of the rocks here. But also from a distance. Now that makes it even more creepier. I got a video out there that shows, I'll probably show it in my next show, that shows this is the video of these eyes, and they're staring back at you. Okay, that is Padre Cave. That is the real location of Padre Cave on South Mountain. And yes, yes, all the stories, everything. Why would Charles Holbert write about it? Why would the little lady, selling her, or buying her groceries, from with little gold nuggets, things like that. Now here is the maps. I'm going to show you the maps here. These are the maps that was in the folder about South Mountain that has been buried for 80 years. No one knows about this. Now, this is South Mountain here. Okay? So this is the map showing where Padre Kino, this Padre Kino trail, okay? So if you look at that, you see the hill there? You see that hill right there? Padre Kino Trail. That, I believe, is where the Four Crosses used to be at, right there in that area. I'm gonna explain this here. Explain this to you here in a minute. So this is one of the old maps. Does it say? Yeah, is this the one? Let me see here. Yeah, here it is. So right here to the right, 1539, right there. You see that? This is where the Spanish conquistadors. Okay, this is where the carving is located at, right here. And it says 1539 on it. Right? This is where this is where the Francis de Nazia Memorial. Can't really read that too much, but the date is 1539. Okay, so that's the area. That's the spot on South Mountain. This is east of South Mountain, on where the Spanish conquistador in 1539 carved his initials at. And it just so happens, see, right over here in this area is where I believe the crosses would be located at, because it only makes sense. To me, it only makes sense. You have the 1539 carving right there, and then straight across from that is this hill, okay? And this is where, at one point in time, where the city of Phoenix says that the crosses were located at, right here on the east side. And when you look around, look at this map, you can see on how more of the mountain is there. I'll explain to that here in a minute. Okay, let's look at this other map. And see, look, it even tells you, look at that. 4 crosses. See that? This is an earlier map, and it says 4 crosses. Here it is, the Francos de Nazia inscription rock. There's a little bit better map of it. All right? And at one time, there was an airplane beacon right there. You can see the little star. It says airplane beacon right there. So this mountain went out further than what I'm going to show you here. So the 4 crosses is here. This is this one map that was made, and that's when Charles Holbert says, well, that's where the 4 crosses is, So the city of Phoenix made another map showing where the 4 crosses is. There's Pima Canyon and Hidden Valley and the two peaks. Look, there's the two peaks. Okay. And so right in the middle here is where Padre Cave is. East of the two peaks. Okay. And there is like a Chinese wall out there too. And it's really cool. This Chinese wall, I've seen it. It looks just like, well, it used to. From what's left of it, because the Vandals went in there and knocked it down. But it does really look like the big Chinese wall that you see in China. The big Chinese wall looks exactly like it, right? What's left of it. But, you know, of course, the Vandals, they knocked it down. Most of it anyway. And that's the reason why, you know, the city of Phoenix is not telling people about this. You know, because of the Vandals, because of the gold that's still up there on South Mountain. You know, they don't want you to dig up this information because it's going to change the history. It's going to rewrite the history of Phoenix. Okay, and that's basically what I'm doing here. I'm resurrecting all this information. You know, I'm bringing back the ashes, you know, from the former civilization. You know, this is what I'm doing. I'm bringing back the real history of Phoenix that hasn't been taught in over 80 years. You know, but I'm showing you proof here. You know, this is the stuff that I've dug up. You know, old maps like this, okay? On how the Spanish was here in 1539, right? And that doesn't that predate Columbus? 1492? 1539, 1492, somewhere in there. But yeah, so the archaeologists, they don't want you to believe that the Spanish has even made it this far. Be it the four crosses are there, and the Nazianzus stone inscription is there. You know, 1539, I think it was, wasn't it? And there's even like I found a postcard. Those of you who have seen it in my past shows, those of you who have seen it, it's a postcard, and it says Arizona's birthmark, and it shows that inscription. but yet the archaeologists don't want to admit that they were even here. Here's another map of South Mountain on the east side of South Mountain. Now you can see the airplane beacon there. All right. And there's the Nazianzus stone. Okay. There's the airplane beacon right there. There's Pima Canyon. There's Baseline Road. All right. Now, look what they did. They have moved the four crosses. Because remember, that last map showed the four crosses over here on the top by the beacon? Right? On one of these hills over here, on the top of the Nazi stone. Now, they're saying that Four Cross Hill is over here. I accidentally deleted that file. I can bring it back here in a minute. I can bring it back. Let me bring it back real quick. Let's see if it'll let me. Yeah, give me just a second. Here we go. See? See where they say at first the four crosses were here. Okay? Just like northwest of the Francis de Nazia stone. Okay? And there's the two peaks, all right? So, you know, the two peaks is way closer than this area here. So there's picnic areas there, you know, and there's like a horse trail there. And they're trying to say that Four Cross Hill is right there now. All right, so this is two conflicting maps here on where they're trying to say the four crosses are. These are the two different maps here. Because, see, look, there's the airplane beacon on this map. You can see the airplane beacon right there. The star right there, it says airplane beacon. See that? And it's just like right there. So now this is way far like west of the airplane beacon. Now the four crosses, they're trying to tell you that the four crosses are over here. This is a perfect example on what's going on here, on a major cover-up, on stuff, on history, Phoenix, Arizona's true history that they don't want you to know. Look at the evidence here. First they said the four crosses are by the Franca-Donazia stone. And then later they're telling us that the four crosses are west of the airplane beacon and west of the Donazia stone. See the Donazia stones right there. Pima Canyon. And I've been to both places. Now, the reason why I say that they destroyed the four crosses after, way after Charles had passed, I'm going to show you this. That's the next thing that I'm going to be talking about, that I'm going to show you. But look at the evidence here. Let's examine the evidence. This is what I'm talking. This is the first map. And it shows the crosses there. Now we have another map. And it shows the crosses way, way west in that area. So I went to both places. I've been to both places. I've been searching for these crosses for years, okay? I was on a major quest, to dig up these crosses, to resurrect, because, Holbert's writing says that they, rebuilt them, His son talks about how they rebuilt the crosses. And Charles Holbert's writing says that, he lost a good friend from a heart attack, rebuilding the crosses. So they got to be there, right? They have to be there. I'm doing everything Charles Holbert is doing. I'm verifying everything, and I did. I'm digging up all this history. Okay, so I wanted to go find these crosses, dude. Oh my God, it'd be so cool. And I came to the conclusion, because that hill right there, there is no way there would be crosses on that hill. That is just too rocky. It's too damn small, and it's full of cactuses, dude. There's just no way those crosses would be there. Now, I would have to go with the first map. The crosses would be over there by the Donazia stone. And here's the reason why I say that. Because when you look, oh no, what happened to my shit? Oh no, what's going on? Okay, here it is. Okay, so let's find the right photograph. Okay, this is what South Mountain looks like today. Okay, this is a Google photograph, a Google Earth still shot of what South Mountain looks like today. Okay? So when we examine this, I want you to look at the east side. Look at the top here. That has all been destroyed. This whole area has all been destroyed. Over here, the airplane beacon. Remember that last map where it shows where the airplane beacon was? That's where it was. That is gone now. The city of Phoenix has actually came in there and has blown up that side of the mountain. All right? This is what South Mountain looks like today. Here we go. So the yellow mark, the yellow circle is how far South Mountain was extended out. The mountain is gone now. They blew up that whole area of mountain. That mountain is gone. That side of the mountain is gone. So the mountain ends here, right? And the mountain went all the way out this way. And when they blew up all these rocks right here, when they took out the east side of South Mountain there, they also destroyed the Padre, the Four Crosses. Here's a little bit. Here's a closer view on what I'm talking about here. Okay, so there now is a restaurant up there. There's all kinds of buildings there, right? There's houses. Look at all the houses. There's golf courses there. Now, I dug up a map, and it explains that where these, on the east side, especially the east side, because, you know, the Indians consider the east sacred. All these golf courses that are there now was one time Indian burial grounds. This is what this map shows that I found in South Mountain, about South Mountain. All these golf courses are burial mounds, are Indian burial grounds. All the arrows are showing the golf courses. This is just some of it. There's more golf courses and burial grounds, you know, all around this mountain. And the government has turned into golf courses. And also they put houses on a lot of burial grounds there. Now look at these houses over here. See the houses on the bottom? All these houses there in the middle, that's burial grounds, man. All these houses over here to the right of the photograph and up on top where it says burial grounds, that is all Indian Native American burial grounds. These people are living and playing on the Indians' burial grounds. And a matter of fact, I dug up so much history that I found out that when Rustler's Roost, when the restaurant was being constructed up there on the mountain after they blew it all to hell, and you know they're making the golf courses and they're making the apartments and the houses there, the Native Americans were pissed. They were so pissed that they were picketing the construction workers, and they were cursing the people. You know, whoever plays, you know, on our ground, you know, whoever lives on our ground, you know, we curse you to death. You know, you guys are cursed. You guys are playing on our ancestors. You know, that is not cool. You guys need to, you know, you can't be doing that. There was so much of an uproar when this was being constructed. I mean, every day the construction workers were out there, and every day the Indians were protesting it, you know, and it was a big deal. And I discovered that the owner's daughter is the manager now of Rustler's Roost, the restaurant that's up there on South Mountain now that they did this to. And I discovered that she now owns the place. And so I wanted to get her take on it, man, right? I wanted to go up there and interview her, you know, because there was so much documentation that it was such a big deal that everybody was pissed off when they blew up the mountain there and they started, you know, constructing houses and golf carts on Indian burial grounds, you know, and making this restaurant there, you know. So I wanted to go up there and interview her. You know, I didn't tell her exactly who I was. I was just telling her that I'm doing this story, you know, about the construction of Rustler's Roost on South Mountain. And oh no, they don't want to talk to me. They do not want to talk to me about this, man. They do not want me stirring up a bunch of shit that they're trying to bury, you know. So, oh my God, dude, I really tried my hardest to get the restaurant owner to talk about this, but my phone calls were never returned. I would actually go up there in the restaurant, and I was specifically asked for her. She would see who I was, and they actually escorted me off the property. So yeah, they don't want me digging this up, you know. But yeah, this is true. This is what happened. This is part of Arizona's past. that they blew up South Mountain. They blew up the east side, and the Native Americans considered the east sacred because that's where the morning sunrise, arises from. And so they buried all their dead on the east side of this holy sacred mountain. Okay? And now the government has completely taken over that mountain, and they blew it up, and they're playing golf and they're living on the Indian burial grounds. They don't want you to know that anymore. This is stuff you will only find out here on Petroglyphs in the Sky. But yeah, this is just some of the stories that I've dug up in my travels around South Mountain, living in Phoenix, Arizona, and discovering the true history of what the Phoenix Lights is, because the Phoenix Lights is a part of Arizona's history. And it's not just the lights here in Phoenix, but around the world. It's the same stuff around the world. It's not, the stuff just doesn't happen in Phoenix, man. It happens all over the place. It was just named the Phoenix Lights because we live in Phoenix and we saw the lights and we just, somebody decided to copyright that name and make money off the name, the Phoenix Lights, right? But everybody fails to dig up the history. No one wants to try to explain it. They would rather go on hearsay than try to understand what's really here. And man, I dug it up. I found it. I found all this crazy information. And so I'm bringing back the history, to you. I'm bringing back this information to you. And if you can't get to South Mountain, then I bring the mountain to you through my book. I have brought down the sacred scrolls from the mountain, right? That's basically what this book is. If you can't get to the mountain and see these prehistoric photographs and understand what the petroglyphs mean and understand what these Phoenix Lights is, if you can't get there, then I bring the mountain to you through this book. This book here. And the proceeds, I don't make any money from this, all right? It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's about getting this information to you, all right? Resurrecting the true history of Phoenix, Arizona, and explains on what the Phoenix Lights truly is. That is my main goal here, all right, is to get this information back to you, okay? I'm talking about Charles Holbert. He's backing me up, all right? The Native Americans are backing me up, right? The petroglyphs are backing me up. These creatures in the skies are backing me up. There's so much evidence here that has been overlooked. And the stories and the information has always been here. It has been covered up for 80 years. And I'm bringing this information back to you. I'm not making any money off the book. I told the publishers to give the money to the foster kids in Phoenix because I'm a foster kid myself. So I want to give back to the community. So I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the fame. I'm not selling you movie tickets at Harkins Theater to come see me every year. All right? I'm not talking about nothing. I am bringing back the true information on the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm bringing back the information on how the giants were here, right? How the Nephilim were here. How the lizard people were here, right? How the gold tombs are on South Mountain. The history is deep, dude. It goes real deep. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into until I started understanding, until I started studying the Phoenix Lights and doing 15 years of research on this whole subject. And when I did, I uncovered a whole bunch of facts. Not hearsay, but facts. And that's exactly what this book is talking about. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Maybe these myths aren't myths at all. Maybe they are true, right? That is in your hands for you to decide. Look at the evidence. Look at the data that I have discovered and have proven. That'll do it for the show for tonight, people. Thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Remember that. The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. And we will see you guys next time. Follow me on Facebook. Send me a friend request. Let's talk about petroglyphs. Send me your UFO videos. I'd love to see it. Send me your petroglyphs. And yeah, thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.